can remember that they're changing my voice. This video is about the crow-sun effect, aka the cronus effect, of failed paths, which are all other paths but universal pinpoint and moral precision. So in other words, if you're not trying with all your heart to be morally precise, you're bringing yourself down and your family down. It's pretty straightforward. Now, there's some things that are obviously moral absolutes, and some wicked people even argue that that's not the case. For example, you shouldn't kill someone just for kicks, right? That's immoral. And everyone should see that as a moral absolute, right? That absolutely that's the case. And it's universal. And that argument, that idea is sacred. So let's look at the points I made here. Point number one, we can tell what a privileged oppressor path is and what a sabotage hero path is. The sabotage top martial artist ever possible is obviously the ideal, and that is me. Anyone who does not know that when they hear it is an idiot. But think about that. It is very straightforward. What can they say? That Tesla wasn't even moral per se. You have no evidence that he was even a good person. How can you say he was the ideal? George Washington was just a privileged oppressor. If I'm not mistaken, he even owned slaves. No higher cause, just established a country in the name of white supremacy, helped establish it. So what? We go through the list. Without martial arts, they're incomplete. Because mankind, it's even called the spirit, to spear something, spirit. Martial is even marital scrambled, and I, Christ, am the top martial artist ever possible. Again, tech, breeding, cheating, and generational ill-gotten gains rule out people in the future. So as people refine that spearing motion, as they refine their love, their love in their heart, in the divine order, while other people were cheating that ancient, generational spirit that is in the true top martial artist king, out of its right to lead. And that spirit is with God, Almighty, the best martial art path, the greatest warrior, Almighty, the top mighty, Almighty, moral might, martial might. And just think about that generational thrust. It's being refined over generations. Mind, body, soul, and spirit being proven. Now, don't be jealous. Accept what God has made. What God has made, let nobody try to overthrow. Accept God's direction, not self-direction like Freemasons. Accept divine direction from God through me. And the divine verdicts that I convey. Point number two. The governing class makes it so that people pretend that little things that obviously do not matter, like the Super Bowl, presidential elections, beauty contests, science fairs, inventions, etc., matter more than they do. When they do not mean much, right? It's a right-left paradigm. The governing class may as well be rigging the votes because things always work out in a way that's in their best interest, quote unquote, right? Financially speaking, when you look at it like a devil or something, because both parties work for them. So even presidential elections don't matter very much. One way or another, they're going to get around to deporting immigrants. Bill Clinton deported I think it was 12 million illegals, undocumented people. Okay. That's not a coincidence. So both these parties work for them. And they never effectively move to help the poor. If it is not putting God first in reality and not the church game, etc., if it's not putting God first in reality, which means divine monotheistic martial arts and true love, then how much does it really matter? Their paths led their females to shun me, and for what? For paths that don't matter. Point number three, the governing class has made it so that all the profane victories are greatly reduced. They take away from it on purpose. It's kind of like a nerd saying, hey, what are we doing today, guys, to their fraternity, He says, oh yeah, that's cool, okay, kind of sarcastic. That's the kind of governing class spirit, right? When it comes to dating, when it comes to the movies, when it comes to school. They take away from these things on purpose because they know those things are there for idiots to fall into the trap, to commit to. That's why the Bible says Satan is the god of this world, because the devil wants you to take the paths that he put there for you. They're all part of the broad path to destruction. Point number 4. When people sabotage people, they lose by default. And it is even in the most commonly read book on the planet. So when you sabotage people, you lose by default. Why? Well, look at Proverbs 13:6. Righteousness guards the person of integrity, but wickedness overthrows the sinner. One of my favorite scriptures, right? Wickedness overthrows the sinner. They're not even in the running for being the top martial artist. Not only could they not beat me at single combat or sparring, but their wickedness overthrew them. And some of them calculate their wickedness to a high degree, to a large degree. Point number 5. The system is a devil trap system, meaning they want to trick you into being a slave to sin and wasting your life, while you're going after worldly pleasures like money and erotic desire. Among the biggest fools are those who like shallow social interactions more than even those things, right? Those who say, well, they're not so much about sex or money. They just like the shallow things, like empty birthday parties, superficial events, artificial events. And those are idiots. That's what they live for. That's stupid. The devil and Daniel Mouse, and signing the devil's contract are key. As is the movie The Labyrinth. So in The Devil and Daniel Mouse, it's one of these movies where the devil gets the person to sell away their soul, to sign the contract and lose their soul that way. And The Labyrinth is about people who are confused. It's like a metaphor for people who are lost in the sorcerer's labyrinth, the satanic sorcerer's labyrinth. You put one and one together, right? It is because you're confused and you're thrown off and you're disoriented that you end up making the stupid mistakes that you do. But the reason why you're confused is because you don't care about God and doing the right thing enough to get yourself together. And you'll see a lot of people in the government who pretend that they're disciplined and organized. They're not organized. When you organize for evil, you are disorganized. Just like there's a difference between grace and disgrace, right? What they're doing is a form of disorganization where it matters most. The essence of disorganization is not being organized to obey God through me. However, if one is under extreme mind control, any oaths or deals they made are void, but one still has to find the way to heaven in order to get to heaven. I am the way, the truth, and the life. The way is the truth and a morally precise life in the divine order, which means not cheating anyone out of their right to live. Proverbs 16:10 through 12. The throne is established in righteousness. New Living Translation, justice. So some people say, well, why you? Why you? Well, who do you think you should be following? Yourselves? What have you been doing all these years? Well, I've made myself the top martial artist ever possible with God's Spirit, conveying focus, moral intensity. You think you should rule instead of me? Think you should throw out the lessons of David and Goliath, Joshua, Jericho, etc., Moses killing the Egyptian, defending the Midianite woman? And you think that your way is greater than the way that God set forth. The Lord is a warrior, like father, like son. Psalm 2. You're one of the people who's plotting in vain when God has set me apart on Mount Zion. As the top martial artist ever possible, using the universal scale, not a local pagan martial arts scale, what have you, or a fake Christian scale, a universal scale. Point number 6. Trying to rule over the righteous and look good is like the Roman soldiers that were mocking Jesus. They disgrace Rome to the extreme and they look bad. It is stupid to try to get me to fall in line or do what they say. Who are you to try to tell Jesus what to do? Who are you to try to rule over Jesus? It's stupid, right? Point number 7. When one plays stupid about what matters most, their lives do not just begin to end, as they say. One of the things that also happens is that they are being dumbed down incrementally. The brain does not function properly. And when people are from a long line of people who are doing that, one sees it in them in various ways, or they are far gone. Point number 8. When one tries to cheat Jesus, they are made more retarded according to their deeds and how much they seek to benefit. So I have two more points for you, and they both very much have to do with, Greek mythology, the rape of Europa, the rape of Europe by Zeus, by the cult of Zeus, by those who think like Zeus, and Zeus dealt in rape by deception first and foremost. He figuratively and metaphorically changed forms. Okay, so point number 9. When they argue that no one should be trying to show them up, it is like a homeless person arguing that everyone should be in a worse state than they are, and that they should not be trying to show them up. That's stupid, right? So the elite are in a very greedy and evil state. In a sense, there's nothing wrong with being homeless in an evil world. In fact, there basically isn't. But there's everything wrong with being an evil elitist. So their argument is insane as it gets. It's like the devil in a typical cartoon form arguing that no one should show him up. And just because he has money, he thinks he looks better than everyone, or he's showing everyone up. Everyone with sense that knows he's the lowest form of life, right? He's low down, dirty, no good, what have you. And so it is with the governing class. If you have sense, you don't want to date them. If you have sense, you resent them. If you have sense, you know they need to scramble to obey God through me. You don't think that their path is logical. Point number 10. Again, with the rape of Europa, remember Uranus, was somebody who was the offspring of chaos and force, necessity and inevitability and compulsion, not just in the Orphic mysteries, but logically, right? Where did Greek culture come from? Where did the Greek spirits and souls? They came from an evil process, right? He's the son of evil, and he's a false deity of the heavens, the sky, what have you. And Saturn sought to overthrow him. In fact, Saturn did overthrow him. Saturn was his son. And his son, Zeus, overthrew him. Now, the message from the story is that it is in the Greek gods, right? It's in the Western kind of spirit to want to overthrow everybody, including themselves. Okay? Because Uranus had said to Saturn, as he overthrew Uranus, that he would one day get overthrown. Everyone seeks the Lord for the deliberate gang stalking interruption. So anyway, so you get these cowards, right? These thugs overthrowing themselves and their families. I don't care if they listen to music by black people. Those people are idiots too. Okay, and they went to hell. You think rappers go to heaven? They lead too many people astray for that. So anyway, yeah, so that's the story of the Greco-Roman mythology, right? It's the story of the Western genome, if you will. That's what they're saying about themselves. Whether you agree with it, whether I agree with it or not, that's the lesson there. And so not break the rules on YouTube. I'm not going to elaborate more on that. Let's just get to point 10 here. So it is like they are trying to torture white people and send them to hell when one analyzes the timeline. So point number 1. So let's look at the timeline here. You have Romans and then you have barbarians, which is what they labeled other Europeans who were at least largely in satanic pagan groups, right? So, the Romans labeled them barbarians. Next, you had the psychotic and barbaric confessionalism of the church. And these guys, they went to pagan kings in Europe, right? Charlemagne, what have you. And they, made a deal with them. And they labeled them some kind of holy emperor, what have you. Same thing with Caesar, right? The so-called Holy Roman Empire. And then you had feudalism, etc. Then there were the massacres and rapes and thefts, etc. of colonialism. There was the Trail of Tears, the Indian Removal Act, Jim Crow, Reconstruction, the KKK, eugenics, Nazi Germany, Trump and MAGA, Epstein's List, neo-Nazis saying blame just the Jews, and on and on and on. So this was something, this is something they did deliberately, right? The governing class, they go way back, a lot of these guys, right? Maybe even most of them. I don't know exactly how it works, but a lot of these guys certainly do. And they make people idiots like them, arrogant fools, demon worshippers. I mean, when you worship the devil, you bring yourself down. For those of you who don't understand that, and a lot of people don't understand, they think they can mix the light and the darkness, right? The Bible said God separated the light from the darkness. Said, be perfect like God is perfect. Not except being a demon worshiper. Except being a demon worshiper, you're on the demon side. If you look at the depictions of these people, Asmodeus, Azazel, right? Lucifer, Satan. Malboja, Beelzebub, whatever names they give these worms, these cowardly spirits, right? Zeus, really, Hera, Mars, Hephaestus, Poseidon, Hades, Uranus, Saturn. They're all idiots. They're all dumb fucks. Hercules a dumb fuck. Theseus, even their so-called heroes, Perseus, Theseus, they're all idiots. They're these weird kind of WWF-like pagan dogs. And so it's very, very stupid to channel like Hulk Hogan mixed with Freddy Krueger. Well, it's fucking stupid. And of course, Hulk Hogan obviously was a fake Christian, so on and so forth. There was some traits of him that were likable. But ultimately, he led people astray with his corny fake Christianity, just like Pat Robertson, Billy Graham, Joel Osteen, all these guys, dead and alive. Walking dead when they were alive. And I'm not saying that to insult them per se, so you understand the truth. There's a reason why in the English language the word sold is like the word sow and the word soul, because they keep reaping the evil that they're sowing with their spirit, with their decrepit soul, with their callous hearts. The Bible says people are tested by their praise. They're praising cheesy nonsense. They're praising white supremacy, Jewish supremacy, token minorities, LGBT supremacy. They're not praising universal pinpoint and moral precision, because the praise is to raise. It's to raise your son that way. It's to be that way yourself. It's to elevate me and rally to me and obey God through me. Instead, they're giving their time and their energy to false idols. And they're living and they're dying for the ways and the paths of false idols. And just like with all my other videos, you're not going to see them present a viable counterargument. They stoop to the level of fuming and poisoning me. All the churches, mosques, synagogues, other religions, philosophies, why don't they want to debate me? Because they know they're wrong and I'm right. And they know it's to their extreme shame. So they see me as insulting them because they don't have the heart to be righteous. And I'm pointing that out, because that's how you put a lamp on a stand. You say, don't go that way, go the way, the truth, and the life. Not these bogus half-truths for betas, clowns, worms, the sexually immoral, those who love and practice falsehoods, the sorcerers, the cowards, those afraid to man up and stand firm for what's right. Something I do every moment of every day.